everybody. My name is Maya Chessen, and welcome to the second episode of the Highly Educated Multicast, brought to you by The Coffee Joint. Today, for our second episode, we are so excited to have our special guest here to speak with us, and I will let him introduce himself. So, Tom, would you like to tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you, Maya, first off, for having us. Very cool. Didn't realize it was the second episode, so pretty cool. But my name's Tom Moore. I'm the director of operations for Eureka. So yeah, no, it's very cool. I know. Well, let me ask you a question. So what this is a new podcast series. What was the podcast you guys used to do? Is it a different one?
Well, so technically that was just a podcast, and this is both audio and video. So that's
cool.
Kind of where we're separating it.
Going to the metaverse now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We gotta make an NFT out of this, and we'll be all set.
Exactly. There you go. So tell me a little bit about how you got into this industry, kind of where you started. What was your in?
So I've been I guess in the cannabis industry my entire life. I started selling weed when I was like 13 years old, throughout high school, college, whatever have you, right? Then in 2014, it went legal in Colorado. I was wrapping up school out in Connecticut. From New York originally, but I moved to Connecticut for school. You know, I was heavily involved. I was playing college football and pretending to go to school, but I was selling a lot of weed, right? So when it went legal, I was like, you know what? Why would I try to go, I guess, professional and anything else but what I'm good at, right? You know, so I said, you know what? Let me take the blind leap of faith. I had a buddy who had moved to Colorado earlier, you know, kind of gave me the lay of the land. I moved out to Colorado kind of with I say no plan, but like I had no resume. I had no working experience. I got a job fair flyer from LiveWell. They were doing like a hiring fair kind of thing. Showed up. This is second day in Colorado. I don't even have an apartment yet.
Wow.
I went. I just chopped it up with the guy. He's like, listen, man, I'll be honest with you. I've never really had a job on paper before, but you know, I know this, and this. He's all right, you know, I'll give you a shot. So I got hired by them, quickly worked my way up to be a manager in like the first like 90 days real quick. And then I was running the Lammer store downtown. A couple guys came in to kind of like, they were asking a lot of questions, you know, whatever it was. Chopping up with them. It turns out these guys were secret shopping. They had a brand called Eureka, and that was big in California, and they were trying to bring it to the recreational adult use market in Colorado. So they're like, look, you seem, you know, you're talking about, you seem sharp. We'll give you your number. When we open up, you know, we'll call you. So I don't really think much of it. I'm like, okay, cool. Sounds good. 6 months later, I get a phone call. They're like, listen, we're ready to go. So I had to give my 2 weeks notice to LiveWell to kind of start with Eureka. So it was definitely a nervous, you know, LiveWell obviously is a great company, very large. At the time, it was only 7 stores, but it was the biggest in Colorado at the time. So it was kind of a leap of faith, but I liked how small the company was. I liked the potential for opportunity. So I kind of came in. At the time, we were so small, we were doing everything. I was filling carts, delivering stuff, metric, whatever, right? Everyone was wearing different hats, but I quickly became the best salesperson. So I kind of where my trajectory went. And then due to some, I guess you call it management issues, I quickly took over as like, you know, just running the whole Colorado operation. And then when we got our license, because we were Proposition 215 medical company in California for a long time. 2019, we could finally get our adult use license in Cali. So then when that license came on, then I moved out here part-time to kind of run both. So I'm actually in Los Angeles right now. I'm about to fly to Colorado tomorrow, but I split time about half and half. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of where my journey kind of took me to. So it's been a ride, but very happy where I'm at. I love Eureka. It's a great company. So no complaints.
You mentioned the size as something that was attractive to you about Eureka. You know, what else would you really say makes Eureka a unique company to work for?
Well, more and more now in cannabis, you know, and I hate to be like the backpack old school guy, whatever it is. I mean, I'm 30 years old, so I'm pretty young, but I just hate how corporate everything's getting, right? And just like some of these companies who, in my opinion, have no business even being in the space or just getting it now because it's safe. Like, you know, like I've been in court for weed. I've lost, you know, family and friends from it. Like, you know, for some of these guys just kind of waltz in at this point, to me, it's a little frustrating. And it kind of honestly, my frustration is, you know, listen, it's a capitalist society, make money, but the stores that we've dealt with and just relationship we've built with people have very short memories sometimes. I think that's the biggest thing. We're a family run company, right? Like I'm the first person outside of like, I guess like the family, the original founders to really have equity. So close knit, small, less than 30 people in all 3 states. And I think we operate at a much, higher level versus a lot of these companies now, 150, 200 employees, half of them don't even smoke weed, half of them don't even know, what it was, so that's the biggest thing from us. We're really authentic cannabis users. Everybody in our staff has sold weed before it was licensed or that's up there. We've been doing this for a long time, so it's not just like a flash in the pan kind of company, right? We've been around since 2011, so not many people have been around for a decade plus in this space. So that's unique about us. That's the main thing. We're a little bit different than a traditional company, I guess you could say.
You kind of mentioned the more people-centered side of the company. Eureka is also considered to be the gold standard of cannabis oil. So moving then also into the kind of more product-facing side of that, how would you say that Eureka's commitment to pesticide-free, solvent-free, all of those things, how do you say that makes Eureka different than other places?
Well, that's actually a really good point to touch on. The one thing about us is that we've always operated that way. It hasn't just been a regulatory necessity, right? Like, a few years ago, I'm sure you remember, I want to say it was like 2018, something like that. They banned the vitamin E and all that kind of stuff. We had never used it ever before then, right? So it wasn't like in 2012 and 2013, we were cutting our oil to make extra money like some other companies that I won't mention, that are still around. And again, people have, like I talked about, people have short memories. I'm like, these people were literally selling you poison for years, and now you're cool with it. Like, it's like, I never did, so, but the main reason about, a little more history about Eureka, we were actually some of the first CO2 extractors with cannabis, right? Back in 2011, my partners, they actually were working with Open, if you remember who they are, right? They were trying to expand from Colorado into California, but they couldn't find any trim, right? Because it was the Wild West back then, right? So essentially, my partners had very good connections in Northern California, had a bunch of trim. At the time, no one knew what to do with trim. They were throwing it in the garbage, burning it, whatever, right? And essentially, we got these machines that we didn't really know how to use. It was a lot of trial and error, right? And why we're called Eureka is it means the sense of discovery, because Eureka, we figured it out. We made oil that was, you didn't need to cut. Previously, you had to cut. Oil was so fatty back then, you'd have to cut it with propylene glycol or VG or whatever it is to thin it out so it could hit in those old school like wicked vaporizer carts. Our oil, we extracted pretty much what we figured out at a lower pressure, so it retained more terpenes. It was more viscous, and you could hit it out of a cart without having to add additives. So that was like our main thing. So we've never cut our oil. We've never kind of like cut corners and like that. That is how the kind of company we are. And I think because of that, we have a long time fan base, of people who have, enjoyed our stuff for many years. So
absolutely. Speaking of the pens and the oils, I heard that you're newly launching the 500 milligram pen, and
very excited about that. The first time was very good. Were you around when that happened the first time?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Can I do a spoiler alert on the air?
Yeah, please.
Okay, cool. So I actually got a couple of different ones. So the ones we released a couple of years ago for any Eureka fan favorites out there were sick. We won the Cannabis Cup for them. They were like a carbon fiber look. Full transparency, the company who made them for me tried to play games with us with like heavy metals and shit. So we had to sue them. There's this whole thing where like pretty much we got all this hardware. And then I tried to scramble and go to another friend of mine to make a similar product, and it wasn't the same. So we pulled it off the market, right? But these look really cool. So we have 14, 12, I don't know. We have a lot of new flavors coming out, right? So pretty much these ones are going to be, these are like the fusion ones. So these are all gonna be like fruit profiles. These are classics. They're going to be similar to the ones you guys currently sell. And then this one's going to be sweet. This one's going to be all gold. It's going to be a live resin straight sauce pen. So they actually land this Wednesday. So I'm very excited to get them out in the market again. We worked, about a year on these, fine-tuning them, making sure they're good, R&D, but they're super custom, all different colors and stuff. They're really exciting. So I think a lot of people like disposable pens now. I think people are gravitating away towards cartridges in the day and age of jewels and, puff bars and all that e-cigarette stuff. I think this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, at least from our perspective, being somewhere like this, a lot of people come who are tourists and they don't really want to commit to the whole pen with a cartridge. The disposable is just really nice for somebody who's just, here for a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's gonna be really exciting. I can't
The
wait to
vape,
try
the
it.
vape hardware has improved a lot too. I mean, the a lot of people sell the 300 milligram disposable, right?
Mhm.
And I know there's been some 500s and grams now in the market, so we're excited to get in that 500 category. The 300 is nice, but the cost of the pen versus the amount of the oil, it's hard. It's a hard sell. Versus this is makes a little more sense. So we're really excited. Hopefully, you guys are going to be one of the first people to get it too. So
Yeah.
I got to talk to Kevin and everybody after this.
Absolutely. Thinking about the success of your pens and concentrates, what was the decision-making process about expanding to pre-rolls?
I made that decision as well as my decision. So in 2018, the vape crisis happened, and I was just like, shit, like I might never sell a vape pen again, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and to be full transparency, I'm not a big vapor, I guess,
Mhm.
a person who consumes vapor, right? And don't get me wrong, I'll hit a pen, whatever it is, but I smoke weed, right? I'm smoking weed all
Mhm.
day long. I love joints, right? I smoke a lot of joints. So I'm like, you know what? I want to make something that I want to smoke, right? And I also, to be honest with you, I don't want to talk badly about anybody. But at the time, point in the market, I wasn't very impressed with the pre-roll options on the market, right?
Mhm.
And I've been coming out to California a lot, and there's a ton of pre-rolls in California that were infused, like lift tickets and all these different tarantulas and all this different stuff. Versus Colorado, there's only like one or two choices at the time. I'm like, this makes no sense. So
Mhm.
I figured, you know what? We're gonna make an oil. Might as well repurpose his oil into doing some other stuff. So we started with the infusion process. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the line. We have the fruity ones and we have the classic ones. The fruity ones kind of came first, but then I realized quickly that even myself, like I like more of the traditional kind. But yeah, they've been great so far. People love them. We actually sell almost the same amount of cartridges as joints at this point now. So they're really cool. I like them a lot. I don't know if you guys have started picking them up. We actually released half grams recently just because they're so freaking strong.
Mhm.
Good luck getting through a full gram by yourself sometimes. Sometimes you just need a little halfy. So,
For
but they're
sure.
great. They're really awesome. I love the whole cure line.
How did you decide what strains you were going to use for those?
So the fruity ones was a lot of trial and error. To be honest with you, like we
Mhm.
did a lot of flavors that like tasted horrible, right? Like they seemed like a good idea, and then like quickly we were like, oh my god, like we were trying to do like key lime pie. It smelled awesome. It tasted like burnt graham cracker when you lit it on fire, right? Like the cranberry was good, and then it sucked when you smoked it. So there's a lot. It was literally like 6 or 7 months of just like messing around. The way we infused them with the fruity flavor, almost like are you familiar with a humidor? Like
Yeah.
a cigar.
Yeah, yeah.
So picture like a enclosed area that has essentially we put all the weed in there, we put terpenes in there, and over the course of a couple of days, essentially it enhances the oil. That's different because a lot of people will put a lot of the terps in the actual oil itself, and
Mhm.
that makes it kind of rough, in my opinion. We just infuse it in like the weed itself, so it's like the actual weed it tastes like the fruit, not the oil. So the 5 flavors we did, we have a mystery flavor line we're starting to launch now. So we'll have a new flavor every 4 months. And the fans can vote which one they want to keep and kind of stuff. But my idea with that was just to kind of make it like a Fanta kind of thing where like you always have those 5 flavors. Like I could always get
Mhm.
grape, strawberry, orange, whatever the fuck, right? I always have the set ones. Then the classic line, that's kind of just like we go around and shop. We just get weed from whoever has good weed. We get a lot of stuff from Veritas,
Mhm.
Artsy, Natural Remedies. Whoever. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. Sorry, people, if I'm forgetting you. But we get as much. We like to mix it up. Again, as a weed smoker, I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah.
I don't like to. If you have 5 different options, I'm gonna choose all 5. Right? Like variety to spice of life with that. Right.
Mhm.
So that's why we like to mix it up with that and do a lot of different combinations and stuff. So you'll see some repeats, but for the most part, it's new strains all the time, which is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually a good time to insert a audience asked question. So Jamie S from Instagram asked, what makes vapes or concentrates different from other forms of consumption, I guess like smoking joints? Is it the same as resin? This is probably a question from a newer smoker.
Sounds like it.
So
I'll give
so
you the.
maybe
I'll
yeah.
give Jamie. I'll give Jamie the easiest breakdown. Right.
Mhm.
So the broader term you should use is concentrates. Right. And then what we make, which is called distillate,
Mhm.
is a different form than resin. Right. All when people are referring to resin or live resin, all it means is the plant is going to be extracted while the plant is still technically alive, right? So when they harvest it, they chop the plant down in less than 20 minutes. It's cryo frozen in a freezer, right? Then when they extract it, same thing. They're extracting it while the weed is essentially still has all the natural terpenes in it and stuff, right? Like it's very, very fresh, right? That's what I call fresh frozen, live resin, live, fresh, right? Different synonyms. Distillate. So, and also just to take us back, resin, you're preserving a lot of terpenes, a lot of natural flavors. However, you're sacrificing some potency because you're leaving a lot of liquids in there and different stuff that's not THC, right? Other stuff that gets you high and contributes to the feeling, but not straight numbered potency, right? On the other side, distillate, what we do, we're essentially refining the cannabis all the way down to the purest form in the sense of we're removing terpenes, fats, lipids, everything. All we're leaving is potency. So we'll have finished oil 95+%, right? We'll reintroduce terpenes back into it to water it down a little bit, make it taste like something. But in the original form, it's extremely potent. So it's like, I like to say like distillates, like we make vodka, live resin is like wine, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the two analogies I would use for a person, right? You can still get drunk on both of them. You can still get high on both of them. Just one's going to be a little bit more flavor forward. One's going to be a little more potency driven.
That's great. Yeah. We definitely want this to be, all levels type stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad to hear you kind of break it down in that way.
There's a lot of misinformation too, because a lot, and I've read some interesting debates recently, and some fans might not agree with this, but some purists that are saying like live resin sucks because it's easy in the sense of this, right? To make a good cured product, you have to have good, like harvest the weed and then cure it and then make extracts from it, right? So a cured resin or like a wax or a butter, kind of thing. Versus live resin, you don't need to trim it. You don't need you skip the whole curing process, right? So it's really only just the growing side of things, and then you're just blasting it. So there's a debate going like online, Instagram debate pretty much, with people be like, oh, like, your extract's really good if you can make it once it's cured. Anyone can make good live resin. So there's a preconceived notion that only live resin is good. But to be honest with you, some of the best concentrates are made from cured material once it's dry, because that really highlights the extraction artist technique. That being said, there's some flavors of live resin that you can't physically get, like terpenes evaporate and stuff after a certain time and temperature. But it is an interesting argument. It's just like, what I mean? Like you are missing half of the process, so it's pretty interesting. But
yeah, that's super interesting.
Live resin is the big buzzword because you got to think about this too, right? I could grow shitty outdoor weed, freeze it, and I blasted it. What is that called now? Live resin. But it's shitty outdoor live resin that has no terps on it naturally. But some buzzword, someone puts that on the bottom of the pre-roll tube, and now all of a sudden, I'm smoking a live resin, right? So it's rough because sometimes we get dragged into that category, and people are like price hounds, like, well, why am I getting charged this from somebody and this from you? I'm like, well, because I actually use good shit and our stuff, right? And that's why I always tell people, do the Pepsi challenge. Take my pre-roll, take someone else's pre-roll, cut them open. You know what I mean? See what's going on and compare them side by side. So yeah, that's the main thing, I guess, resin versus what we make.
I also, sometimes I notice that people use words synonymously that aren't actually synonyms. So, it's important to know what you're looking for, what you're advertising, the whole thing. Just important to know what means what. Back to kind of Eureka more specifically, I have been told that you guys are expanding to Michigan by the end of this year. So tell me a little bit about what that has looked like. What is that expansion process been like?
It's cool. We have a lab being built in Chessen, Michigan. It's kind of more rural outside of like Flint area kind of. We'll have full extraction. We're doing ethanol extraction out there, which, by the way, too, we do CO2 still in Colorado. It sucks. Like, it's terrible. It's long process. Ethanol extraction is the way to do it, right? For making distillate. So in Michigan and California, we only do ethanol. Colorado is the only place, because we're in Denver city limits and the fire department doesn't like to play ball with us. So pretty much in Michigan, we're going to have a big ethanol facility. We're also going to do our first Eureka grow ever. We're going to do 2 acres of grow strictly for material to feed the ethanol machines.
Gotcha.
So no, it's cool. I'm very excited. The market out there is a lot different than the market in Colorado or California because it's so new. So the pricing is still really high. Not as much saturation on the shelf. Yeah, there's not like a million brands and stuff out there. So it'll be really cool. It'll be like hopping in a time machine back to 2016.
And are you kind of excited for that? Would you say anxious? Yeah, where would you say you are?
Combination of both. I mean, look, it's a
Mhm.
little delayed already. The facility should have been open already and stuff, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, again, we're a self-funded company, right? So the $4 million to build that lab, it didn't just come from hopes and dreams, right? And it definitely didn't come from a bank. That's for sure. So
Yeah.
so pretty much it's just spreading us a little bit thin. As I want to do stuff in Denver and Cali, I'm like, all right, well, now we gotta feed the beast in Michigan, and we have hopefully Massachusetts coming online soon. Like we have a lot of things on the pipeline, right? So it's just, you know, spreading us a little thin, but I'm excited. I'll never turn down more money. And to be honest with you, again, it's a great new market. Some of our partners are already there. I know LiveWell's out there. I'm pretty sure you guys have some stuff going on out there too, right?
Yeah.
I'm meaning to give Rita a call. I just heard that through the grapevine this week. So, like I said, a lot of people are moving into that market. To be honest with you, I would never have gotten into the California market if we didn't start here. We would just look stupid not participating in it. But there's no money to be made here between the taxes in California and literally just to put something in your mind. Colorado, I think there's like 400, 500 stores. There's only 700 stores in all California. It's a state of 41 million people. There's only 5 million people in all Colorado. How does this make any sense, right? And then on the flip side, there's about 4,000, 5,000 brands like us. So me and 20 other people every single day are calling the store, being like, hey, you want to buy a pre-roll? You want to buy a cart? And there's only X amount of stores. So now all these stores have the liberty to treat you like garbage, right? There's not a partnership. We're lucky to be on the shelf, right? Versus in Colorado, okay, you know, there's almost as many of us as you guys. So it's okay. It's like we have to work together. California, they name the price. They make ridiculous, you know, demands like, oh, well, if you don't want to do this, I'll just bring someone else on. Stuff like that, right? So that's why I'm excited to go back to, you know, Michigan is a little bit smaller of a market, 11 million people in the whole state. You know, people who we've done business with already know what we're about. So I'm very excited for Michigan. Should be great.
I'm just curious, are those kind of differences in amount of stores? Is that a kind of a governmental thing? Is that a legislate, you know, where's that coming from?
It's all right. So on top of that, the biggest thing is like, which I can appreciate, right? The social equity push, right? Which I'm sure you're familiar with in Denver, right? Like, you know, pretty much people who are affected by the war on drugs, you know, minorities, people who've been arrested, et cetera, have first crack at it. That's great. However, by them like trying to like get those rules in place and like roll it out slowly, it just like slowed it just like hurt everybody across the board. So like I personally feel like they should have grandfathered in a lot more of these like medical collectives out there, because at one point California had over like 3,000 4,000 like collectives, if you will, right? Like quasi legal, you need like a recommendation going, whatever it is, right? That's what they should have done. The fact that they just like started from scratch pretty much, they gave it a few pre-ICO licenses to people, but like not enough, you know what I'm saying? Because again, it's just per capita, it's too few places. And my point is like more times than not, I don't buy weed in a store in California, because why would I pay $70 for an eighth when I've been buying weed from the same guy for years outside of the store? I'm just gonna start paying taxes. Weed has been medically legal in California since '96. So for them to come in and put this ridiculous 27, 28% tax, people are like, dude, no, I'm not paying this shit. I'm gonna keep buying weed from the guy on the street. And then on the flip side, no one's really enforced. Like I could bring you to 5, they call them trap shops. I could bring you to 5 trap shops in 10 minutes in downtown LA, which is minutes away from stores that we're currently in. So again, would I buy a Eureka cart for $40 in a store, or would I buy it for $25 in a store down the street if I think it's the same thing? So that's the big issue with California. It's terrible regulations, terrible enforcement, and just not understanding how big the state is. You know, they try to like slow roll it out. I'm like, we're just gonna fail if you don't, you know, kind of just let things develop. You know, Colorado really did it right. Not for nothing, they really did a great job. You know, that's why, you know, we're the second biggest grossing state. You know, they're not by population size. You know, we're not. You know, I know Oregon's growing more weed and Washington, but their rules suck. Colorado's rules are really great. They did it the right way for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they did just strike down a ballot measure that would have increased the taxes again, which was good to see that that's not going through.
They need to realize who they're dealing with. People who have smoked weed have been doing this illegally for a long time. If the rules don't make sense, and I'm not gonna follow them. But if it's like, hey, pay this ridiculous tax, okay, I'm just gonna get weed from somebody else and not pay this tax. So like they need to realize like just by making these ridiculous rules is not gonna fix anything. It's just gonna further prohibition essentially and just keep the black market going, you know?
Exactly. Right. So, you know, in thinking about that, consider 5 years from now, how do you think job is going to look different? How do you think that this industry is going to look different?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't want to get too melancholy. Look, with the way that things are going, two things need to happen. If it goes federally legal, we'll be in a good position because banking will be allowed, like stuff like that. Like, our biggest issue is finances, right? Like, you know, if I just had an imaginary piggy bank that I could just do what I wanted to do with, all our issues would be solved, right? Versus some of these larger companies that are coming out here, you know, for instance, look at Curaleaf, right? Curaleaf, they own Select. They just bought Los Sueños, right? They're buying up dispensaries left and right. Like, what stops them from just putting the price so low on stuff that I get run out of business in 2 years? Because they have a corporate budget that they're prepared. Like, listen, we're just gonna lose money for 3 years to get these cockroaches like Tom out of here, and then eventually, when there's no other choices, we're the only choice, right? Granted, hopefully there's some brand loyalty and stuff like that, and like the customer would like rebel and shit like that. But at the end of the day, if you can get a $15 cart or a $35 cart and it's similar potency and similar taste, and you only have $20 in your pocket, what are you going to pick, right? So that's my fear, I guess, if they kind of like pussyfoot around what's going on right now, which is legalize this state, legalize this state, legalize this state. If it goes federally legal, it's on, because I'll be able to ship stuff across state lines. I can make all my oil in Iowa, fill all the cartridges in North Dakota, and then send them everywhere for cheaper labor. You think it's easy getting good labor in downtown Los Angeles? Everyone's a fake actor, a TikTok star. Right? I can't. I got to pay the lowest person here freaking almost 6 figures, right? You know, so like to be able to outsource labor and stuff like that, that's really where this industry needs to go for it to be even keeled or fair played, right? So hopefully, you know, new elections coming up in a couple of years. Hopefully that's a big like running point, you know, because America's economy is not doing the best right now. They might say, hey, listen, let's just open it up. Also, you know, we gotta, I forget, because I'm not from the South at all, but there's a lot of people in the South of America who like really still think weed is like the devil's lettuce and like some backwards ass shit going on down there. So it's gonna take a lot to like federally legalize it. I'll be honest with you, you know. So hopefully it does sooner rather than later.
Or if at all, you know.
You know what? Well, you know what? My thought is this: even if they federally legalize it and say, look, it's legal everywhere. If your state wants to participate, great. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, don't sell it in your state, but you can't get anyone in trouble, whatever it is. Like, that would be a win for me as well, too. You know, but yeah, it's so crazy. Even like in some like general standardization, right? Like even this, the pesticide testing in California versus Colorado versus Michigan are all 3 different tests. If I'm a human being, why am I trying to be a cannabis consumer? Am I more at risk in one state than the next, right? Like, all the pesticide levels should be the same. They should test, like, we test for 55 pesticides in California, only 13 in Colorado. However, the levels of the 13, you can't have anything, like non-detect. Versus California, you got like partial levels and this and that. So I'm like, which one is it? Right. So like, there needs to be like a collective also that is like standardize that across the board, or try attempts to anyway, you know?
Right. But that needs money, right, too.
Yeah, and again, who wants to dump money into that kind of stuff? That's not right. Do you know whose headache that is? That's my headache. That's not like the bureaucrats' headache. They don't really care. I mean, there's more testing for me. There's a whole nother. I could go on a whole nother rampage about testing labs and the racket that is. But
all right, that's I think all the questions I have. But just kind of to leave off, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to leave an audience with, knowing? Floor is yours.
No, not really. I mean, thank you so much for having me. I think this is a great program. Sorry if I rambled a little bit too.
No worries.
I know we probably went off a million different topics. But no, look, anytime you guys want to have us on, let us know. You know, big fan of the 1136 Yuma family. So anything you guys want us to do, you know, always count us in, and appreciate you taking the time and having us.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you everyone for listening. And yeah, we will see you next week. Thank you so much, Tom.
All right, great. Sounds good. Well, I really appreciate it, Molly. Have a great rest of the day. All right, take care.
You too.